What are the differences between traditional martial arts in a self-defense context and the sport of MMA?
Yes, that is a long, complicated question.
Okay. I said it was a 1 minute question.
yeah. It was a complex one there.
Okay.
So, generally speaking, there aren't that many martial arts that have like serious consideration for proper modern self-defense. Cheers, guys. Considerations, right? So you will get a lot of martial arts which obviously have the basis of self-defense, but they're usually quite stale in what they're considering. It's a one-on-one situation. The other guy punches, you counter-attack, and whatever it is. Very few of them actually run through the kind of real-world scenarios that you get. Someone gets close to you, someone like invades your space a bit, you're not sure whether they're like an assailant or not. Maybe they're just coming and checking you out. Maybe they're, oh, I mean, you got the time or whatever. You know, those are the hard things about self-defense. Actually, is knowing when to act and what actions you should take, and what those, so it's that decision-making process that you don't usually have in most martial arts, MMA or any other, where you're making. So when we used to teach more of a self, because I'm so old that when we first started teaching, there was no such thing as MMA, and so we were trying to do self-defense, like really legitimate, practical self-defense instructions there. And a lot of the things that we would do, we would run scenarios, right? So we would run someone going through, you know, the practice of trying to get in your face, trying to ask you what the time was, coming in friendly, and then trying to switch it to some wrestling. So what you really need, if you're going to be properly claiming to be practicing self-defense, is you need moves that are realistic and are actually going to get the job done, not just there for fluff and for the sake of it. And then you need, on top of that, running realistic scenarios so that you are actually able to make those difficult decisions under duress, right? Or at least as much as you can simulate duress in a session, right? And that could involve anything, right? It could be two people approaching you, or three people approaching you, or one person approaches you but they're super friendly and they just get a bit too close, or maybe they're a bit drunk or intoxicated or anything. There's a million different scenarios.
There could be weapons as well.
Yeah. So that stuff is like super difficult, and the worst thing you can get is people claiming that it's easy and simple and that all you need is the right punch or kick and everything will be fine, man. That's very, very unrealistic, and that doesn't do anybody any favours doing that. And in terms of like the practical, physical elements with MMA, you're getting pretty close to about as well-rounded a skill set as you could have for the physical side of self-defense, right? So you're able to deal with standing striking, standing clinching and wrestling, going down the ground. And then you get the additional elements of, okay, well, how suitable is the groundwork if you're talking about real self-defense, right? Because I'm going to tell you all day long that you need to know what you're doing in terms of wrestling and groundwork, because it's such an advantage, obviously, but you've still got to question the wisdom of taking the fight to a ground, because there's so few times where you can guarantee it's a one-on-one scenario, right? So there's some examples where you could almost guarantee it was, right? Like if it's car rage or something, you get out of the car, one other person gets out the car, and you know there's just the two of you, you know, tie the person up, take them down, subdue them on the ground. But even then, you know, maybe they got a mate that's going to pull up as well, or someone passing that knows them, right? But if you're talking a situation out on the street, like how much can you guarantee that it's only going to be you and that one other person, and then you've got the hard concrete ground to deal with as well, right? There's a bunch of factors that you just have to consider.
No padded gloves.
No, nothing, right? But then if you're talking about advantages, there's huge advantages on the ground, whereas even though you have very distinct advantages on your feet, people can get lucky on their feet. Right? You can be striking with someone in a brawl on your feet and they just happen to wing a big haymaker in and you go left instead of right and you catch one on the chin. That's perfectly possible. But on the ground, the chance of them like getting a lucky move on the ground is almost zero, right? They're stuffed. So there's a whole bunch of considerations if you're talking realistic self-defense. What you have to do is you have to be honest about it, right? So the people that go, because I remember when MMA was first coming through and the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu side of things was being promoted as, you know, the ultimate in terms of self-defense, you would hear claims like, so it would start off, the majority of street fights go to the ground, right? And then it would be, well, everybody knows 90% of street fights go to the ground, right? And then it would be like almost all street fights go, right? And there was always these claims that all street fights would go to the ground. And I would be scratching my chin going, hang on, when I was growing up in Hounslow and I was like watching these people fighting on the streets. I don't even remember the last one that ended up on the ground. Actually, they all went like this and threw haymakers at each other until they both got tired, and then
until they started watching UFC.
And then they wandered off in other directions, right? So again, you've got to be realistic. Is that, you know, do you want to go to the ground? How much of it should be on the ground? And is that, you know, is that wise to be in a position where you proactively take it down to the ground in all situations, right? So the truth is, you need a really well-rounded skill set so that you can make the decisions on what's most appropriate at what time, and then you need more than just the physical skills. You need that decision making and the mental.
But if someone wanted to train for self-defense purpose, MMA is as good as any, if not.
Oh, look, if you're going to pick a physical skill set, then you couldn't do any better, right? Because you're being battle tested continuously, right? You know what it's like to have punches and kicks and knees coming at you all the time. You know what it's like to be shoved into a close range scenario and smashed up against a fence or a wall. Yeah, you know what it's like to be like punched on the ground. You know what it's like to have to try and hit a submission against someone who's completely resisting, right? Whereas if, you know, there's some contentious elements around modern Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because it has moved so much into a sport side of things, that, you know, and there's a lot of traditional BJJ practitioners that aren't so happy with the way it's gone in that respect. You know, it's just that it's lost a little bit of that emphasis on you should be able to defend yourself against someone on the street, and more, you know, let's play to the rules and let's hit worm guard and make sure that we can finish the person or tie them up, right? It's got definitely a different emphasis for a lot of places. But MMA, right, you bring that very much back into the fold, right? Because you couldn't do MMA and go, but I don't know how to strike, right? Or I'm going to do MMA, but I don't know how to wrestle off the fence. You just forget it, right? It's not a thing. So you could definitely get away with like doing BJJ for years and not know how to strike. Couldn't get away with doing MMA and not knowing how to strike. So yeah, if you were going to go with a well-rounded physical skill set, you'd be hard pushed to beat MMA. And then there would be people that do a good job of running through scenarios, but just wouldn't have the capacity to give you the physical skill sets to run through it.
Well, you won't find a better club than down here.
Yeah. There you go. That was slightly longer than 1 minute, but that was a tough question.
Appreciate it. I know, you were the chopper. Thank you very much.